Okay. All right. So, normally I'd give us a couple more minutes for people to get joined in, but I want to make sure we have enough time to talk and go over stuff. So I know Autumn gave a little bit of an introduction here, but I'll give us a really quick one and then we'll go ahead and get started. So my name is Nikki. I am the vice chair for our AAZK Awards Committee. So the whole purpose of this panel tonight is to kind of talk about what goes into nominating for AAZK Awards, the different awards that we have. And then we are very fortunate to be joined by several different AAZK chapters tonight, who will hopefully be able to answer any questions that you might have, or provide any feedback, any advice on either actually writing nominations, or what it meant to be a recipient of an award, things like that. So we're very excited to have them join us today. Just a quick overview before we get started. And we have hopefully all of these chapters joined us. These are the ones that showed a deal of interest in joining us tonight. So we didn't hear back from one or two of them. So hopefully they're on tonight. If not, we have another great options of other chapters who have joined us. So I'm just going to do a really quick summary of who potential chapter wise we have to join us. And then when we get to our actual panel discussion later, I'll give us a chance for all the chapters that have joined us tonight to kind of introduce themselves and say who is here that's part of that chapter, to be able to answer questions, just so we have enough time to get through things. So tonight we are, again, hopefully they're here, everyone is here tonight, but we're joined by the Columbus Zoo and Aquarium AAZK chapter, Omaha AAZK, Point Defiance AAZK chapter, Elmwood Park Zoo AAZK, Safari West AAZK, Fort Worth, Dallas, and Greater Cleveland AAZK. So we have quite a variety tonight that have hopefully joined us. So we'll just do a quick overview of the different awards that we have, just because there are some changes and some different awards that we have. And hopefully we'll get through that pretty quickly, and then we'll have a lot of time at the end to talk about the nomination process and get feedback from the other panelists. So just to go ahead and get started. With our awards committee, we have a couple different, there we go, peer nominated awards that we offer. So as a quick summary, mostly so that we could use some cute rhinos to match our new awesome AAZK logo that we have. We have several different AAZK peer nominated awards. So this is the full extensive list of what we have. So we're going to go through these one by one and talk about what different qualifications are necessary, what different parameters we're looking for with each of these awards. And then we'll go into the AAZK committee nominated awards. So to start us off, we have the AAZK Excellence in Training Award. So with this award, this is a relatively new award for us that we're really excited to have as part of our collection of awards for AAZK. So this award is meant to recognize the keepers who are really going above and beyond of empowering animals to participate in their own care, promoting their animal welfare and well-being. The qualifications, I'm not going to go through and read them on each slide just because they are mostly similar, but I'm going to try to call out specific things that are different for each award in terms of the specific qualifications. So for the Excellence in Training Award, we've been fortunate in the short time that we've had it to have quite a few nominations for it, which has been great. So these qualifications that we're looking for either an individual or a team that have really gone above the typical, just target or station training behaviors, but things that are really, overhauling an entire training program. Or, I'm just trying to think of examples of, an animal is not wanting to shift out and exhibit very often. And you overhaul a training program to have the cat participate in different training sessions around the exhibit to encourage them to use more of the exhibit, things like that. So things that are really above and beyond those typical day-to-day training behaviors that we might be doing. So some of the categories that we're looking for on the AAZK committee, in terms of what is contributing with the Excellence in Training Award, would be animal well-being, how this new training regimen has impacted an animal's well-being, the innovation of these different behaviors. How new are these behaviors that they're coming up, like this team might have came up with? What benefits does it have to the animal or the collection? Documentation about the training. So we'll go more into this later on in the presentation about the different documentation elements that we like to have for the nominations. And then, being able to take this knowledge from a new training behavior, a new training regimen, and how are you able to share this knowledge, whether it be with a team or other institutions. If you're working with a set of like a guerrilla troop and you had a training regimen that worked really well, you might take that and I do not have the ability to I don't know, Autumn, if you're the host, do you have the ability to mute anybody? I don't know if Joy can hear us right now. Oh, there. Thank you, Joy. Sorry. And so with let's see if we can go back. There we go. So being able to share those resources with other teams, other institutions that might be having similar issues with their collection. So those are some of the different aspects that we're looking for the training award. The next award we'll talk about is the AAZK Janet McCoy Excellence in Public Education Award. So those of you who have been part of AAZK for a while have, remember Jan when she was the chair of the awards committee for many, many years, who had a significant impact in the zookeeping field. So we decided to name this award after her in her honor. For everything that she's contributed. And as of a couple of days ago, we're very fortunate and excited to say that this award is actually going to be sponsored for the next several years by one of our own committee members, PJ. So she has graciously volunteered to sponsor this award for the next several years. So thank you, PJ. So the purpose of this award is to recognize individuals, teams, or AAZK chapters that are really going. Again, you're going to hear me use this phrase a lot to this presentation, but above and beyond the typical keeper chats that we might be doing as our daily things at our institution. So we might have like a 11 o'clock demo and a 2 o'clock demo, going above and beyond those things and, maybe doing a whole different type of program with ambassador animals, working with different educational events, hosting maybe a keeper day with your local community to provide information about what goes into zookeeping. Those are just some different examples. For this award specifically, we're looking at, again, programs that are kind of going above and beyond those typical day-to-day things that we're doing. So really connecting with either your local community or maybe your local schools, getting the public involved more on grounds with different events, things like that. So the AAZK Lifetime Achievement Award is probably one of our biggest awards. It's definitely one of my favorites that we receive nominations for because this award is meant to highlight those who have been involved in the keeping field for many, many years. So it's really meant to highlight those who have been really committed to the profession, whether it be training, and mentoring younger keepers or interns, taking on a volunteer program, working with SSP, AZA, tag programs, being leadership with AAZK, things like that. And with our qualifications for this award, this one probably has the most, I don't want to say extreme, but the most lengthy terms of qualification. So the nominee for this award they must be a member of professional AAZK for a minimum of 20 years, or they'll have a combined service, as you can see there, of the minimum of 20 years, but they also have the initial employment with the 10 years. And one of my favorite parts about this award is just when we do receive the nominations, is just, again, the people that are being nominated for this award have really gone and done so many different things in their career, and being able to read through all their accomplishments and their achievements and how much they've been able to inspire other people. A lot of times with this award, we get letters of support from those who have worked with this individual that's being nominated, and just seeing how much of an impact they've had on their team and their colleagues is just really inspiring. So this award is meant to highlight those people that have really made a lasting impact in this field, having been in the field for as long as they have. So there's also the AAZK Meritorious Service Award, and this award is intended to recognize something very similar to the Lifetime Achievement Award, but maybe not, they haven't been in the field as long, but also recognizing their commitment to the profession and improving quality of life of their species and their care. And the same thing with the Lifetime Achievement Award, their different membership involvements that they might have with AZA or AZAC, their local um, outreach committees, things like that, or even just having leadership in their own institutions. Um, for this award specifically, we are looking for people that have a strong commitment to things like education and conservation, being able to have a variety of experiences in their career field. Um, and having those, contributions like publications, presentations, different leadership roles. So it's another alternative to the Lifetime Achievement Award. This is another award that we do get a lot of nominees for, and it's also just really interesting to be able to read through all the accomplishments they've done. And again, this is a award that can also be given to not only just an individual, but it can also be a team nomination as well, which is makes it unique. Um, the AAZK Lee House Advancement in Environmental Enrichment Award. We got some lengthy ones title wise. So this award is also one of my favorites because I love being able to read through all of the creative enrichment that keepers and aquarists have come up with at their institutions. This award is very graciously sponsored by Desert Plastics. So the winner of this award receives a trophy as well as a $500 gift card to Wildlife Toy Box, courtesy of Desert Plastics. So this award, as it says in the title, is meant to highlight either an individual or a team who have really done a lot of keeper-initiated contributions to the art of environmental enrichment. So, and this is again going to the above and beyond phrase that you'll hear again many times of the typical things that you might have, or you might just, do a couple toy changes out, during the day, or you have maybe some perching rearranging that you might do, but really taking a program where you either overhaul the whole program and created a whole new enrichment calendar for a species, or you may have wanted to inspire people in terms of what can be upcycled and reused enrichment wise and try to create a whole new program with that. So just the categories that we're kind of looking for with this particular award would be the impact on animal welfare. So how is that enrichment program impacting these animals? And how is it changing their welfare, their day-to-day care, the versatility of it? So like what kind of variety are you seeing? The involvement. So did this involve, just one keeper? Did it involve a team? Was it multiple units? Did it involve interns and volunteers? And then again, the same that you've seen in a couple other awards of how able is this environmental enrichment that this team or individual has created to be able to be shared to other institutions or across other units to be able to kind of spread that knowledge. So the Gene M. Ramotica Excellence in Animal Care Award. This is another great award that we've had awarded to both individuals as well as teams that is really focused on achieving and creating a great animal welfare environment for either certain species or a collection of animals. Over the years, we've had groups that have been nominated that have had like a tough year with, in terms of animal births or just social dynamics within like a group of animals. And that team has really worked hard to change their the way that they were handling that group of animals to be able to move them differently, shift them differently to cause them less stress, things like that. We've had just teams that have really pulled together being short staffed and have really, come to overhaul a program for the benefit of an animal. So we've had a lot of variety that has come into this category over the years. But its purpose is to be able to highlight teams or individuals who are really taking animal care as it is in a science and combining welfare and behavioral observations, diet changes, things like that to really improve the animal welfare of a collection. This one does have a little bit more of different qualifications. So the big key ones here, other than the typical AAZK professional membership levels, would be that the nominee must have been employed for at least 3 years on a permanent status at the same zoo that they're being nominated for the award. So if they worked at, national for 3 years, and then they got nominated for this award when they were working in Baltimore, it would need to be at the same zoo. And the nominee must be nominated by a peer or manager who is also employed at the same zoo. So those are the two very award specific qualifications that we have for this one. So the AZAC Nico Van Streen Leadership and Conservation Award is an award that is meant to highlight keepers who are working in different ways to highlight and contribute to conservation and different research with animals and different collections. And for this award, the first place recipient of this is awarded a plaque as well as a $500. And then the second place who is through the review process that we have on our committee, is awarded a certificate of recognition for their work on their project. So this one also kind of has some specific qualifications. So this project that the keeper team is working on, it should protect, study, and promote stewardship of the natural world. So we want this to be different projects that are making a positive difference in terms of conservation efforts and are supporting of their zoo's philosophy. And we want the nominees should be nominated by peers who have witnessed firsthand the nominee's dedication to this project. So we want it can be somebody that's either like a team member on it who has maybe witnessed this person working, firsthand on like collecting the fecal samples as part of this project or doing the ethogram for this, this project. So somebody that's witnessed firsthand them taking this project on. The AZAC Let's Roo Professional of the Year Award is another great award, similar to like the Meritorious and Lifetime Achievement Award, whose the whole purpose of these awards is to highlight those who are really going above and beyond to promote their day-to-day professionalism within their facility. So this award, we've had keepers, aquarists, educators of all career lengths be nominated for this award. So this is a great one to be able to highlight those who maybe have a lot of participation in AZAC or in AZA programs, maybe facility related projects or programs, whether it be like education or committees within their own zoo, like enrichment and training committees, I'm thinking. And then also just events that we have through AZAC, like organizing, BFR, Trees for You and Me conservation events, working on individual breeding projects, things like that. And we also look into having leadership roles, whether it be in committees on their own institution or dedication to leadership at AZAC, whether it be the national or their local chapter levels. And this one also does have a specific qualification as well, of that the nominee must be employed for at least 5 years on a permanent basis at a zoo, aquarium, or related facility. So again, this is a great alternative if you have somebody that's, been really inspirational and you think has done a great job of promoting professionalism, but hasn't been in the field quite as long as 20 years. This is a great alternative to be able to still highlight all that professional work that they're doing, that impact that they're having without them having needed to be in the field for that long. So the Excellence in Habitat Innovation Award is a relatively new award. For many years, we had the Excellence in Exhibit Renovation Award. So this is kind of a new twist on that, which is sponsored by Host to Habitat. So this award is meant for individuals or keepers, keeper teams, Aquarius teams that have gone to really transform spaces for animals to improve their well-being, whether it be in an exhibit area or a holding area. So we really wanted this award to highlight like keeper initiated things, changes that were happening. So more than just doing like a perching change out or like a rearrangement of, objects in their enclosure, but things that can be examples that we try to include were like adding a new training area to increase guest viewing, or transforming maybe a dead area of the zoo that doesn't get a lot of traffic into like a pollinator garden to help encourage guests to maybe make a wildlife habitat in their own backyard. Redesigning furniture in an exhibit to make animals more visible, things like that. So with this award for qualifications, we're looking at that the people that are being nominated for this award have improved the well-being of an animal or a group of animals through keeper-initiated habitat innovation. So we want this to really be keeper-initiated, not like, the high, management really wants it to be this. We want the goal of this one is to really highlight keeper-initiated change that the keepers have wanted to make to improve animal welfare. And some categories that we look for on the awards committee in terms of different categories we're looking to score people in are for keeper involvement, how many keeper staff were involved in this project, were any interns or volunteers involved too to make it like well-rounded, the originality of the element. So, how different is this project or the goal of, this habitat innovation from other projects at maybe similar facilities? The impact of animal welfare, of course. So how do these changes impact that? And then, community and guest impact. So like, for example, with the pollinator garden, like, having that accessible and viewable to the public, has it made an impact where people are wanting to learn more about pollinators and how they can build a habitat in their own backyard? Or have you seen an improvement and interest in a lion habitat because guests can now get up close and personal with this animal because it's a new training area? Things like that. And then the AAZK Excellence in Research Award is meant to recognize keepers who have been driven and they've organized research projects to further the knowledge of in the zoo community of a species or group of animals. This is again a relatively new award as well, and we've been excited to have some nominations come through with this. This award is meant to recognize those who have really tried to come up with projects that there's been an impact on animal welfare or well-being, and recognize the efforts that keepers have made in these projects to improve the welfare. So with this award, we have some specific qualifications we're looking for. So the nominee must have developed and or facilitated a research project at their facility that had that direct impact on welfare or well-being. And the project must follow the scientific method. It must be clear and concise and have added to the knowledge base of the community. And some of the categories that we're looking for, similar to other categories that we've talked about in the other awards. So keeper involvement, the scope and quality of the project, how broad is it? How narrow is it? How can it be applied to other species? The improved husbandry, how it had the scientific method and conservation method involved, and then how this research can be shared with other institutions, maybe other teams within the zoo as well that could benefit from it. So for nomination procedures, it's pretty similar amongst the different awards, but you can nominate an AAZK member or an AAZK chapter for some of the awards by completing the nomination forms, which we have on the AAZK website, which we'll show a link to later on. And we're really excited. We have Google Forms now this year, so we're hoping that they will be easier than ever to fill out, because sometimes they were a little problematic in the past. But we've also changed it. It used to be that you needed to have a director's signature, but at some facilities, we know that that's not always easy to get time with the director to be able to have that signature. So a lot of the awards, we've changed it to being a curator signature as well to make it a little easier, a little bit more attainable, because we don't want that to be the one thing that holds people back from nominating a great team or an individual for an award is a signature. So hopefully that will make it a little easier for people. A lot of the awards do require additional documentation in support of a nomination. So just be sure that you really read through the nomination procedures clearly to find out what information you might need, whether it be letters of support or examples of things such as like, an education program that you might have nominated for the Public Education Award, maybe a layout of what that program looked like, things like that. A lot of times with the Enrichment Award or the Habitat Innovation Award, we're looking for pictures of the before and after. So just make sure to be really careful and mindful reading through what qualifications you need there. And completed nomination forms must be submitted by May 1st. So every year we open up the nomination window for awards on January 1st, and then they are open all the way until May 1st. So we have a pretty solid chunk of time for nominations to be filled out. And if you ever have any questions or you're unclear about what a nomination form needs or what it needs support-wise, like please feel free to reach out to us. I'll put our email up later in the slide presentation. And we would love for you to reach out. We'd be happy to answer any questions because we would love to have your nominations. So now we're going to just get into a couple of our committee nominated awards. So we have 4 different awards that are nominated via committee versus through just a nomination form that you'd put on the AAZK website. So the Barbara Manspeaker Chapter of the Year Award is nominated through the AAZK Board of Directors or CEO. Then we have the Bowling for Rhinos Chapter Innovation Award, which is fittingly through the Bowling for Rhinos Committee. And the Trees for You and Me Chapter Award is also through the Trees for You and Me Committee. And lastly, the Conservation Initiative Award is, you guessed it, from the Conservation Committee. So they are very conveniently named and grouped up with the committees that they are a part of. For these awards, the respective committees will determine the chapter conservation nominees. Like BFR and Trees for You and Me are going to be looking at events specific to their respective conservation organizations. So like chapters that maybe held really great Bowling for Rhinos events that they had a lot of turnout. They were able to raise a lot of funding. They worked really hard on that. They're going to look at those types of aspects when they're looking for chapters or nominating. And then the conservation committee, of course, is going to be looking for chapter events that may support other great conservation group efforts. And they're looking for things like creativity, innovation, fundraising, community engagement are some of the things that they're using when they're looking at different chapter involvement, and different events that might be different from the typical events that they might have, how much of an impact it had with the community, things like that. So then the committees will submit their nominations to our awards committee on January 1st, and then the nominees that are selected for these different awards are asked to fill out a questionnaire that will be then scored by our awards committee members. So for before we get into the panel discussion, so we have these are just a little list of our oversight. So our board oversight is Eric Deffer, and she is of course on the board, but she oversees the AAZK Awards Committee. And then our chair is Autumn, who, if you guys were on the beginning, Autumn did a little introduction. So she is our chair. I am our vice chair for AAZK Awards. So Erica's email is there, and then our AAZK Awards email is also there. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. That's also on the website as well. And then the AAZK website is listed there, so you can go there to find any information about detailed award descriptions. You can check out the nomination forms and get started filling them out. And again, reach out with any questions. We're, of course, happy to help. So now we've reached the point of our panel discussion. So these are just some general questions that I put on here as just ideas of people we wanted to talk about. So for those of us who are part of the panel, I'm going to go through in just a minute here and say what chapters we had that had said that they were interested in participating, because on screen share, I can't see everybody. So I'm just going to call out the AAZK chapter. And then if those who are here that are part of that AAZK chapter want to just say, hey, I'm so-and-so, and then we can go into discussion, that would be delightful. So we've got some great chapters here that have done a lot of nominating, who have received a lot of nominations and awards, who are here to help hopefully encourage people to nominate for these awards. So some things that are just ideas of discussion are, maybe any encouragement you might have on getting your members of your chapter to nominate for awards, how you navigated any trouble you might have encountered with getting signatures, or any, trouble you might have had getting support for nominations at your facility. And then if your chapter or you as an individual have won an award, how it felt to win an award, if you felt like it's had an impact on your career or an impact on your facility, like if you did an education program that maybe people were a little like, know about this one, and then you won an award, like did it garner more support for your program, things like that. So just some ideas, so I'll go ahead and just start off naming some of the chapters that we have that are here tonight. And then again, if I say your chapter and you're here part of it, if you don't mind just unmuting yourself and saying, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm part of the chapter, and then we can just dive in. Awesome. Okay, any questions before we get started? Okay, I'm probably going to lose my voice tonight. This is the most talking I've done in a while. Okay, so let's start off with the Columbus Zoo and Aquarium AAZK chapter.
Hi, I'm Kevin. I am a keeper in our Australia area, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, Kevin. We're excited to have you here too. Anybody else on here? No? Okay. All right. How about Omaha AAZK? I know they were a little on the fence if they could participate.
Hi, Brandy. I am the secretary for our Omaha AAZK chapter. So,
Awesome. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're excited to have you. And Point Defiance AAZK.
I'm Suzanne. I'm from the Point Defiance chapter. I'm the chapter president.
Awesome. Thank you, Suzanne.
I'm Russell. I'm also here from the Point Defiance chapter. I'm our BFR chair.
Awesome. Thank you, Russell. Thank you guys for being a part of the panel tonight. How about Elmwood Park Zoo AAZK?
Hi, I'm Lexi. I'm from Elmwood.
Hi, Lexi. Thank you for joining us.
Also from Elmwood, and we're excited to be here.
Hi, Kate. Thank you for joining us. We're excited to have you guys. How about Safari West, AZAC?
Hi, everyone. I'm Erica. I'm also the board oversight for the awards committee, but I am from Safari West and happy to share what I can about nominating.
Awesome. Thank you, Erica. Fort Worth, AZAC. Anybody? Okay. Dallas, AZAC.
Hi, I'm Blair. I'm the Dallas AZAC Vice President and also an ambassador keeper. And then Ainsley's on here too. She's our president, but we had a windstorm blow through last night, so I know she doesn't have power, so she might be having issues with her computer.
Oh no, I'm sorry to hear about the windstorm. I hope everything's okay.
We had lost power at the zoo this morning too. It was crazy.
Oh gosh. Well, I'm excited and grateful that you were able to join us tonight. And hopefully you guys get power back soon, to your like houses and stuff. But thank you for joining us tonight. And then Greater Cleveland AZAC. Okay. All right. All right. And then is there anybody chapter wise? I think that was all the people I had email back, but I don't want to forget anybody. Is there anybody else on here chapter wise that had said they wanted to be part of the actual panel and part of the talking part that I missed and I forgot about? Because I'm really sorry. I don't want anyone to be forgotten. Okay. I think we're in the clear. Great. Okay. I can go ahead and kind of just start off asking some questions and people can kind of just chime in if that sounds good, or if anybody wants to start us off on a point that they're like, this is one that I wanted to hit home tonight and talk about. We can start there. But otherwise I'll just maybe say, what at your facility has gone well, maybe what's gone well and maybe something that's gone not so well in terms of doing nominations at your facility.
I could chat a little bit about Elmwood. So I think before last year, I just don't think that anybody ever really considered the awards for AZAC. I don't think we looked into them that much. I guess we thought maybe they were a little out of reach, or I'm honestly not quite sure, but I don't think that anybody really ever nominated somebody before. And last year, Lexi, who's on here, and she'll talk a little bit about receiving, she got the Lee Holtz Environmental Enrichment Award last year. But I was just really inspired because she created a really cool enrichment device for our otters. And it was kind of really blowing up on social media. A lot of people were getting really excited about it. It was a pulley system, so we can kind of interchange enrichment throughout the day. And our one female otter absolutely loses her mind for it. And there are so many different videos. So when I was going through AZAC, I was just like, let me look into these awards. Like maybe we could get some recognition for this. And it was so much easier to nominate somebody than I originally thought, that, I did it and then we got the greatest outcome from it. And so when Lexi received the award, I to our whole chapter, I was like, guys, we need to do this. Like it's so easy. There's really nothing stopping us. So I think the biggest part for me is just like the awareness aspect. Like it's not this impossible task or a really difficult task or time consuming even. It's just, carve out some time and do it. And you can get somebody an award for it. So Lexi, I don't know if you want to chat about receiving it.
Yeah, I was really excited and grateful, especially to Kate for nominating me because it was really exciting. But yeah, I think part of it is that we're a really small facility, so we just kind of assume that a lot of it doesn't really apply to us. Like, oh, we don't, we might do something cool, but we're not like a big facility, so we wouldn't probably be recognized. And I think it also inspired me on a personal level to like share more about those items. Like I was already sharing about the pulley system, but we also did like a dig box for the otters that was really cool. So I've been sharing that all over the place. I went to an otter conference and I literally brought all of the specs of like everything I had drawn and Same thing with the pulley. Like I brought everything for it and I was trying to like share it around with everybody. And that really, I think the award like empowered me to be like, hey, like other people might think the things that I'm doing are cool too. Um, and then we also ended up writing an article about all the stuff we had done to the otter exhibit in the past year, which ended up getting published in AAZK. So that was really exciting. So I think just the award kind of like pushed us to share more about what we're doing, but also, you know, look for more innovation in those things. So it was really exciting.
That's awesome. Thank you guys for that.
Mhm.
Does anyone else have anything that they'd like to share? Maybe that's worked out well, or maybe that they had to kind of overcome at their facility?
I can share. I mean, if I'm being honest, there's not like a whole lot we've had to overcome when we've nominated for awards. Kate was saying it really is, it's relatively simple, and we're a smaller facility too. So for us, getting like the director's signature isn't too big of a deal. But something that I wanted to share that I felt was really valuable is we try to nominate several people each year, but not everybody gets an award. But even the people that we've put in nominations for, and then they find out that we nominated them, even if they don't get or they aren't the recipient, the amount of gratitude they have just because their coworkers, their peers felt that they deserved the award is huge. And I think it's been a really big morale boost for our team as well.
I think at Point Defiance we had a similar story kind of to what Kate was saying of like I think we talked for like a few years about, oh yeah, award season is coming up and we should nominate somebody and maybe we could do this or that. But then like, you know, you look at the calendar and all of a sudden it's June 1st and the nomination deadline is passed. And yeah, well, we'll try again next year. And then next year rolls around and we didn't do it. And I think it was in 2022 we put in our first nomination, which was successful, and we had a winner. Cindy won for the Nico Van Streen Award. And then that success kind of like begets more success because you realize that it really doesn't take too long. I don't think collectively any of our members, when we've done these nominations, have spent more than, I don't know, maybe 2 hours in the whole process of like writing things up. You have a few people look at them, you know, you pass it by the director or curator for signature. Like it really, in all honesty, does not take that long. And then it's really cool once you're, you know, an individual wins, which is great for that individual, but it is a big boost for the chapter as well. And then you kind of want to continue that. I'd say one thing we've had, you know, we were really thrilled. We won the Bowling for Rhino Innovation Award last year, and we had applied for that a couple of years in a row. So I think that's another thing too, is if you don't win, you know, you can still nominate again, um, because a lot of these awards, there's only one winner, but you can have lots of deserving people. So reminder that like even if you don't win, if you have a program, and we were really proud of our bowling pin decoration program, and we wanted to get recognition for that, so put in for it a couple years in a row, and then you do get that recognition and it feels really good.
Awesome. Thank you guys for that. Anybody else? Oh, Kevin, I saw you unmuted yourself.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think at Columbus, obviously we're a very large institution. So I think one of the issues that we've had in the past is getting our CEO signature. So being able to, you know, go a little bit lower has been very helpful for us. And I think when all of the, Joy and I did a lot of the nominating this past year, and we just found different projects and stuff that we were excited about across the entire zoo, and went through and nominated as best we could, and wrote up. And I think our CEO got very excited when he started getting all of the letters that, you know, people had been nominated and people had won awards and things like that. And it really kind of helped our chapter establish a little bit more credibility within our institution as well. So just because, again, Columbus, we have over 100 keepers. So and we have quite a few departments and trying for different awards and different organizations and stuff. So it really helped AAZK kind of get a foundation in at the Columbus Zoo as well.
Nikki, I'm going to jump in for a second to answer the question in the chat about how the curator sign off with the new Google Forms. So on the website, there is a form. There's a link there for the curator and director form. So basically, we're doing a little bit of like on faith that people have told their curator, director what's going on and that it's true. So it's just a form for them to sign now, and you'll just have to scan that in or put it in, add it to your Google form as you submit it. It's only for the peer nominated awards, so like all the chapter awards, we don't need that for that. So it's just for those peer nominated ones, but there's a link on the website. It'll say like where the form is, and then you just put that on to your nomination form.
Awesome. Thanks, Autumn. And thank you, Kevin. Does anyone have anything else that they want to add? I know we have a couple other chapters here. Or anything else that they think would be helpful to share. I mean, I know people kind of mentioned a little bit about how it felt to be like receive an award and be nominated for the award. But any other things that you think could be helpful to, I saw a hand somewhere. Yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, our chapter has struggled a little bit recently with like getting our facility support on like allowing meeting times at all during like a work day. And I'm thinking, a hope of ours would be that we'd be able to have an AZAC meeting not after work, just because it's a struggle to keep everybody there. And I'm hoping that if we continue this route of like nominating, getting some recognition, that maybe our facility will see the value in, we're allotting them this time. Our facilities winning awards and recognition. So that could be like something that's not normally thought about as like an added bonus, maybe. And that was all.
The only other thing, oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Kate.
I just had a thought. Do you have like an archive of past winners anywhere on the website or, past awards? Because you going through the awards in the beginning and kind of just explaining some of the recipients that have won and like how different they could be per award. I'm wondering if like having, past 2 or 3 winners might inspire people to see the differences and how they can apply, because I definitely was looking at the habitat modification one for another one of our keepers, but I was a little intimidated by some of the like wording for it. And I just kind of thought like, oh, I don't think he can qualify for this because it seems to be like bigger than it is. But even just you talking about, some of the awards and the recipients, like that might be helpful to help inspire people if you don't have something like that already.
No, that's a great point, Kate. We do have something on the AZAC website that does have like some of the past recipients of stuff. And I totally agree with that. I think it's a great way to kind of, look at what, I think the hardest part with the AZAC Awards, I mean, we found with our chapter when it was existent, so that a lot of times you think that a project that you're working on, your team is working on, is too small, and that you're like, oh, it's just part of their everyday job and stuff. And until you read through these other nominations, and you're like, wow, that's kind of what we were doing, or that's exactly what I was thinking about writing about. You don't, no project is ever too small, and I think it's always worth a shot to. And if anything, like some of you have highlighted, that the nomination itself, I think, means the world to people, and seeing that somebody else has acknowledged and appreciated some of the effort they've put in, or like a hard project that they might not think is a big deal, but they put so much time and effort into. I think it's a great way of just recognizing your peers or your team and stuff like that. But I definitely agree with that, of like looking through some of the past awards and seeing like who was nominated, or who received the awards, of getting ideas or kind of inspiring you to think of a little differently on how maybe you approach of like, oh, well, this individual does this training all the time. But then when you read some of maybe who won the award, you're like, oh, okay, maybe I can look at it this way, or kind of reframe how you're approaching thinking nominations, if that makes sense. So But yeah, I love that. And then Erica, did you have something you wanted to say still from earlier?
Sorry, I have two things. Just kind of going off of what Kate was saying with the Habitat Innovation Award, just because my facility, the keeper that won was from my facility. And that last year was the first year that we offered that award, and we did revamp it to make it a lot more attainable for keepers. And so with who we nominated, she was very involved in the process of revamping habitat for southern ground hornbills, but we still had our maintenance team doing most of the construction and like, the big stuff. But, she collected like branches and put them up. She helped discuss like the design and whatnot. Um, so I think with that award specifically, if anybody's thinking what their keeper involvement was too small, I would still encourage you to nominate, because even just being part of the planning process or being able to provide ideas from the keeper's perspective is really valuable. And that's something we really want to acknowledge. I think one of our hopes too with this award is the more we can get that information out there, that the keeper perspective is really impactful, whether it's a big or small project. The hope is that more facilities will want to involve their keepers in those kinds of revamps for the animals, whether it's native animals or collection animals. And then the other thing I was going to say, PJ actually kind of touched on it in the chat, was a lot of our staff are not AAZK members. And so when we are nominating, we just go and talk to them and say, hey, we'd really like to nominate you for this award, but you do have to be an AAZK member. Is that something you are able to do? And if not, let us know. And if we have people that aren't able to afford it, well, I'd say 99% of people are more than willing to become a member. But if they're not, then that's the point where we would go and talk to our higher ups and say, hey, we really want to nominate for this award. Would you be willing to spend the $55 to help them be a professional member? And I think for most places, big or small, that kind of money is kind of a drop in the bucket, especially if it's showing what a great facility they are. So you can still nominate somebody that is an AAZK member. You'll just get an email back from Autumn letting the nominator know that they need to be an AAZK member. And as long as they go ahead and sign up, they are still qualified to receive the award, even if they've only been a member for a day.
Awesome. Thank you, Erica. Does anyone else have anything to kind of add along those lines? One question I kind of had as a group. So, I know when our chapter was going through and doing nominations, sometimes we struggled on how to kind of go about coming up with ideas for who we were going to nominate, going through all the teams, and we kind of came up with the tactic of just going through unit by unit, looking at maybe any social media pieces that were done about them, any features that were like in our curator meeting notes, things like that, that really kind of highlighted some of the projects they might have been working on that weren't really talked about that we could maybe highlight for an award. And we just went through unit by unit to see what might be applicable for what awards. I know with our institution, when we had our AAZK chapter, we had a lot of, when we started winning awards and seeing nominations coming through, our facility became a lot more supportive of sponsoring like keeper travel for going to these conferences. For they've started to see the benefit of the professional development aspects to it, and that it always looks good when your keepers are doing good things, which is great. So that's kind of how we went about coming about nominations and things like that. And do you guys have any tips or tricks? I know a lot of you guys have highlighted it, just, you sat down and just talked about it as a group, but, going through and trying to maybe, do you like select an award that you really are focused on as your chapter? Like, hey, we really want to go for the enrichment award. Like, what units do we think could apply for this award? Or do you find it easier to just kind of go through like the different teams and see if they have anything that you think is award worthy that year? If you guys have any tips for maybe zoos who haven't nominated before, or aquariums haven't nominated, it might be a little daunting to kind of just look at the zoo as a whole and be like, awards, people, what do we do? If anybody has any ideas on that.
I think how we started in Columbus was we kind of focused on most of our officers were on the same team. So we started off just kind of focusing on that one team and how different people on our specific team fit different awards. And then as we've grown a little bit and we've tried to get more curators involved and tell us, what's going on in your departments. What do you think is new and exciting that your keepers are doing? And trying to get a lot of the managers more involved as well. Just because, again, trying to know what's going on across the entire zoo or at a sister facility or something like that is quite difficult. So that's kind of how we started and how we've kind of grown our awards program.
That's great. Thank you. Does anyone else have any thoughts, any ideas that they want to share they found helpful?
Like new to this because like I said, we just kind of started doing it last year, but I just try and be really loud at AAZK meetings and remind everybody during the awards time that it's happening and to look into stuff. And we'll see how it shakes out this year, if it works or not.
I like that tactic. Yeah, it can be challenging sometimes to kind of get it started, I feel like, especially when it's first new awards are new and stuff like that. But anybody else have anything that they found helpful they want to throw out there? I know we have we have like 5 minutes left before the meeting kicks us out. I guess in general, if anybody has anything that they want to share that they've either thought about awards that they've thought has really, been a great concept from receiving an award, or anything that you would think would be helpful for a chapter that might be this is their first year nominating that you were like encouraging, anything like that.
I can jump in and say that I know for a good experience that your enthusiasm is contagious. And when people get that excitement that people have for AAZK and being able to lift up others, it's really contagious. And especially getting people to conferences to get people to receive the awards and make those connections, it really just kind of builds from there. So any little spark that you can add is amazing and wonderful. And yes, do the things. It's amazing.
Thank you, Joy. I think that's an awesome point. And I think it's a great way to, oh, okay, never mind. We're not going to get kicked out right at 10. I lied. So we have all the time in the world to talk about awards now. I know, especially appreciate our East Coast people who are on the call tonight because I know Kate and I are looking at each other on the screen here. We're like, this is a struggle, man. I guess you too, Lexi. So we're like, no, I think that, I know when I went to my first conference, I loved it was my first conference was actually the conference that we hosted for National AAZK. So it's a whole different ball game when you're hosting, which I learned. But I was drawn to the infectious energy of the awards committee. And I loved seeing like Erica and Autumn and, Denny was still part of it on the team there and helping to kind of organize like the award ceremony and stuff. And I mean, I've been fortunate to have received 2 awards in my career as a zookeeper. And that's still like one of the most exciting things that's ever happened to me. And I love being able to being now on the committee, and especially now I don't get to score anymore, but I love reading through the nominations. I geek out reading over them and I'm like, my gosh, these people are doing such cool stuff. Like this is I just want to give them all stuff, which we obviously can't do. But I think it's just, kind of what Joy was saying is just spreading that excitement and that just initial spark. And I think too, especially right now, with how much change has happened in the world between the pandemic and everything that's happening now, it's just there's a lot going on. And I think, being able to have like those small moments where your team has recognized your efforts on something that you thought was really small. It doesn't sound like it's a big deal until like it happens to a team member, I think. And then that just that little action of just knowing that somebody recognized that you did a whole overhaul, especially I feel like one of the things we talked about with the Keeper, the Habitat Innovation Award was there's so many changes that happen in like these smaller, like, aquatic habitats or these like with the, the like poison dart frogs and stuff where it's like to us, we're like, oh, I mean, I don't work with amphibians or reptiles, but I appreciate like all the changes that go into their exhibits that I don't even recognize because I'm not familiar with them. And there's so many of those little changes that, might not seem like it might seem insignificant to like the keepers that are doing it every day. You're like, oh, well, we always do a substrate change or we always move this perching around for them. But to keepers on the outside who, like me, who don't know anything, I'm like, you just overhaul that whole exhibit. There's like different moss, there's different trees, there's different cups. Like it's just totally different. And I think being able to recognize those little things, I think is a great boost of just morale and just kind of the connectivity with other keepers and other teams and being able to recognize what everybody's doing. Um, Sorry, I kind of geek out on a tangent a little bit there. So I'm just going to read a question that we have in the chat really quick. Not that you guys can't read, but I can't see that well on my screen right now. So I'm going to read it out loud. It's going to be fun. How does your chapter go about organizing nominations from a committee, discussing it at monthly meetings, and hope people step up on their own to do it? Or is it officers, presidents that do these? That's a great question. I'll just quickly speak for I keep saying our chapter. We're our chapter doesn't really exist right now at this point. We are a government facility, so I'll just leave it at that. Got a lot of red tape. So our chapter has gone through some ebbs and flows. We've got a lot of passionate keepers, but there's a little bit of red tape that we have to navigate through. So our chapter's kind of in a hiatus right now. But when we were very active, we would go through as officers usually. We would kind of put the call out at chapter meetings. And a couple of years, we did actually have chapter members who would nominate their teams or nominate an individual that they thought was well suited for an award, which we loved. We would offer to help any way we could as officers, but we really encouraged them to write it on their own or do whatever they could on their own, just so that nomination really came from them and they could have that pride that they submitted it. But in the years where we didn't have that many chapter member nominations, the officers would go through unit by unit. We would also, like Kevin said, email curators and reach out to them to see if they had anything that they knew their team was working on that we thought that could be nominated for an award. And then the officers would kind of divide and conquer. So we would just look at awards. We'd reach out to those teams to get input and stuff for the nomination forms, like photos and dimensions if we needed them, things like that. And get feedback from other keepers and things like that. But the officers, for the most part, would be the ones that were responsible for it, with trying to encourage members to do it here and there too. But does anybody else have anything that they do at their facility that might do differently, whether it be members doing it or just officers?
Currently we're mostly officers. We do have a plan, which actually I said that we were hoping to have this plan last year and we didn't actually get around to making it, but it did get approved by our zoo. But we're going to go ahead and try and make a local kind of our own chapter awards that mimic the national awards, so that we can get people within the zoo to go ahead and submit the nominations. And then from that point, if we need to as officers, we can tweak them a little bit to maybe fit the national awards a little bit better. But that way we have a little bit more buy-in from the rest of the staff. And then if they are not a national member, our zoo has agreed to go ahead and purchase a membership for whoever wins the award at the local level. So if they're not already a national member.
That's an awesome idea. I love that. Anybody else? Oh, we have a clarification. Hold on. If nominating a department team, do they all need to be AAZK professional members? So that is a good question. For like Erica said, you can ask if it's an individual, just be like, hey, we really want to nominate you for this award. Would you be willing to just be a member so we can nominate you. And like Erica said, you can do it the day before the award nomination goes in. But with teams, it gets to be a little bit more challenging. I know in the past, what we've had is like, we've had a team recognized and not everybody is an AAZK professional member. And so like when you get the certificate or the plaque, only the names of the professional members are on that certificate or plaque. So it kind of goes along those lines of kind of encouraging people that maybe are part of a team to kind of encourage them to be an AAZK member just so they can kind of be a part of the full recognition. Of course, once it goes back to their facility, I'm sure their facility recognizes everybody that's a part of the team. But in terms of like the national conference, they do have to be AAZK professional members to have like the full scope of recognition and all that, if that makes sense. So
Just adding on to that, if it, obviously Nikki's right about the team, but if it is a chapter, not everybody in the chapter needs to be a professional member. So if you are able to nominate just a specific chapter, then we don't list individual names. It just is given to that chapter.
that's a great point. Thank you, Erica. Anybody else have anything they'd like to add? Any thoughts? Any photos of that baby taper at Point Defiance? Just putting it out there. Could get an award in itself.
It's
Put
all
on a
over
cuteness
social
award.
media.
We've had visitation days, but it's like no photos are allowed, so they're closely controlling the public image.
I can't handle it. It's so cute. It could be the next award we have is the Baby Watermelon Award.
Ume's a shoe-in for sure.
And then just one other comment. And it says, it sounds like everyone is nominating zookeepers all over the zoo. Are these just zookeepers or are we prioritizing active chapter members? That's a great question too. I think a lot of us are just prioritizing just those we think are well suited for an award and would be a good fit for a nomination, whether that be somebody that is in a chapter member, or if it is just a keeper who's not actively involved in the chapter. Again, if it's somebody that's not involved in your chapter but is willing to become a member of AAZK, you can still nominate them for an award. They don't have to be, it just says to be a professional member of AAZK. They don't have to be necessarily an AAZK chapter member in your local chapter. So we've had, people that we've been able to say, hey, would you be willing to be an AAZK chapter member or a professional AAZK member? And they haven't been active in our chapter for years. So that's been the case with us. So I think, at least with us, we were looking at just people that might be looking more at the aspect of being well suited for a nomination versus that, oh, we're only looking at just our chapter members as a whole, if that makes sense. And then do we think this might be a way to get more involved in a chapter when we are nominating someone that doesn't do anything with us? That's a good question. I think that, and if anybody else wants to chime in with any of these too, please feel free. I think if you know that as a chapter member, you're able to do nominations and as a professional member of AAZK, you're able to maybe do award nominations or receive awards. I think that's a big perk and an excitement to be able to not only be nominated, but to do nominations for some of your other colleagues. I think it's a good kind of perk to put out there for somebody that might be interested in being a chapter member. And then, I love the idea that Kevin mentioned earlier of having like chapter awards. So if you have members, that are really active, but if you're trying to encourage more membership within your own local chapter, of having those awards, but then as Kevin had said, kind of using those, if you have those awards, to be able to look at them and how can you kind of reframe them in a way that they could be applicable to the National AAZK Awards. I think that's a great idea. Anybody else?
Hi guys.
Hello, Frank. What would you like to?
I'd just like to say the nominations also don't have to be someone at your own facility. Joy is on here, and Joy nominated me for an award last year, And that was a complete shock to get an email saying that I was nominated. So you always don't have to nominate somebody at your zoo. You could always nominate a friend from another chapter.
That's an awesome point. Thank you very much, Frank. Yeah, so if you got buddies at other zoos that you're like, man, this person's rocking it out of the park, there's like I think there's like one award that we went over tonight that has the specifics of being at the same facility for the nomination that's happening. But otherwise, if you have somebody that you know is just rocking it out of the park at another zoo and you're like admiring them from afar, what better way to say that you're doing an awesome job than an AAZK Award nomination? So that's another great way to have an alternative too. But does anyone else have anything? I know it's getting a little late. I know we have till 11. Autumn said we got a 2-hour meeting, but we're not gonna do that. That's a lot. But maybe does anyone have any final thoughts that they'd like to add? Any final pieces of advice or anything like that that they'd like to share? Anything they can think of? No. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. A special huge shout out to those of you guys who are part of our official panel tonight of answering all of my ridiculous questions that I have. But hopefully for those of you guys who were just joining us, that, had questions about this, that this was helpful. I know we, I have this recorded for tonight, so this is something that this will be on social media, so you guys can access it. If you have a meeting with your officers of your local chapter, you can go back and look at it and see, maybe tips or tricks that might happen. But a huge shout out to all of our chapters who were willing to participate in this panel tonight. You guys were awesome and gave great feedback and advice, which is much appreciated. And thank you for taking time out on your night at home to join us. But again, if you have any questions or anything after the recording, after you watch it, or anything you come across, you can always reach out to our awards at azak.org. And yeah, hopefully we will see your nominations. You got some time left until May 1st. It's the deadline. So hopefully we'll see some nominations from your chapters this year, and we can't wait to read through them. So yeah, any last thoughts? I promise I'll stop talking now.
Thank you for putting this together, Nikki. You did a great job.
Oh, thank you. And thank you guys again so much for being a part of it. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the evening.